Good morning. I will call this meeting of the May 16th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to order. Thank you for joining us today, whether it's on television or here in the audience. Mr. Mokrasky, good morning.
Good morning.
Do we have any adjustments to the agenda? Commissioner Bozievich.
So I just want to note we have an emergency item today, and it's been posted online under 4A in the matter of authorizing some sale of some surplus property. And then also the agenda setting committee added a public comment period to tomorrow's board meeting before we get into the public hearing to take general public comment while we're in Florence.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. Noted. Any further adjustments to the agenda? Commissioner Sorensen.
Thank you. I just wanted to have a separate vote on that $500 for the group. It's on the consent calendar.
5A2.
Yeah, we can wait until then, but I just wanted to alert you.
Very good. 5A2 will be pulled. Okay, excellent. Any further adjustments to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move down the agenda to public comments. Speakers will be taken we'll entertain public comments for 3 minutes. Speakers will be taken in the order in which they sign up. Will be limited to 3 minutes per public comment. If the number wishing to testify exceeds 10 minutes, I don't foresee that being an issue today. We'll take you in order. At the end of 3 minutes, you'll hear a beep, beep, which will be my phone going off. I'll silence it immediately, but at that point, could you please conclude your public comment? We begin today with Michael Kerrigan. Michael, good morning. Please step to the mic, state your name and address for the record, even though we all know you and where you live.
Good morning. My name is Michael Kerrigan. I reside at 1439 West 4th Ave in Eugene. I work for Community Alliance in Lane County, but today I'm speaking on behalf of the Springfield Shelter Rights Alliance, which is a program of CALC. In Eugene, I've been actually involved in establishing and running rest stops. The Nightingale Health Sanctuary and Opportunity Village Eugene, they've been very, very successful. Rest stops work and they're cost effective. Both Nightingale Health Sanctuary and OVE have thrived because of community support, because the city of Eugene and Lane County have provided locations and administrative support, and we're very, very thankful for that. The car camping program, which provides locations for folks to sleep in their vehicles, trailers, or Conestoga huts, has also been very successful. Housing advocacy groups in both Eugene and Springfield are waiting to move forward with contacting churches and businesses on county lands within the urban growth boundary, but outside the city limits of Eugene and Springfield, to encourage them to step in and take a role in responding to our housing crisis by providing a location for the car camping or rest stop programs. And for this to happen, we need you to take action by amending the Rural Comprehensive Plan and or amending the Lane Code to reflect the language in Eugene's Code 4.816 regulating car camping and rest stops, and also Springfield's Code 8.012 that outlines the approval process for outdoor overnight shelter. I just want to note right now that rest stops can be established in Eugene and Springfield, with the focus will be on the car camping program. So we look forward to working with all of you and staff, of course, and thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you, Mr. Kerrigan, and thank you for the sticker you're wearing. I voted. Hopefully everybody watching and listening did. Thank you. That concludes the list of folks who have signed up for the public comment. Does anyone else in the audience wish to address the Board of County Commissioners at this point in time? I see none. We will move along to the Commissioners' responses to comments and or other remonstrances. Commissioner Sorensen.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to put a word in support of Mr. Kerrigan's advocacy. You know, often people get concerned about emergency housing issues in the winter when the weather is cold and miserable in most of Western Oregon. But actually, there's increasing data coming out that the summer is also a very deadly time for homeless people because temperatures in the downtown core of most cities in North America and including Western Oregon get very, very hot in the summer. And so the actual death rate to the homeless from the winter is now getting, it's approximating the same number in the winter as in the summer because of the extreme temperatures, extreme hot temperatures in the summer. So I think this is a year-round problem, and I think that the steps the county can take include those that were outlined this morning. And I guess I would zero in on some of the county-related opportunities. And one would be land in the Eugene, Springfield, and for that matter, all of Lane County that could be used for housing at various levels, emergency housing, temporary housing, transitional housing, different terms for different types of housing. I think another big one would be county facilities. We have actual buildings that we own, and they're not all used all the time. And I think if we could look for models from other communities, that would be another opportunity for us. And I just want to thank, again, you guys for coming in today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorensen. Further response or remonstrances? Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you. So I replied to Betty Grant about this issue, and we have asked staff to look into it. We're expecting a memo probably later this week with what exactly it would take to do what you're asking us to do. Like I explained in the email, it's not just a simple task as adopting the same language as the city, because there's the mismatch in their language refers to city zoning and our code's written on county zoning, and then there's an additional issue of ongoing enforcement, which may take an IGA with the city to actually carry out the program. So we should know later this week kind of what staff's looking at, and I'll be happy to share that with you, as it will probably be public record at that point. I will note that there was a couple opportunities at the legislature that would have expanded housing opportunities in rural areas that I don't know if any of them are still alive, but it would have made it easier to get an accessory dwelling on quite a lot of rural property, which would have probably added, quite a bit to the housing inventory. And unfortunately, some of those were fought by 1,000 Friends and a few other people. And it seems like it would have been an easy step to add housing inventory to our county, and particularly some areas and that are really desperately in need of workforce housing, like in the coast and all that, where it would have made it easier for somebody to have an RV or hardship type housing, but do it in a more permanent fashion on some of these rural properties. So hopefully you guys are staying alive up at the legislature too, and talking to your state legislators about those particular land use issues, because those changes in land use code have to come at the state level.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. Any further response or remonstrances? Then a couple from me. Last week I had a chance to attend Women's Space's annual event, their annual meeting, very well attended. Women's Space, as you all know, is a place where women can seek sanctuary when fleeing, in many cases, abusive situations, often with children. Women's Space is needing more places to house women who need to be basically isolated from the danger that they are living in. And the word is getting out that Women's Space needs more room. And Mr. Mokrasky, you know of a dream that I have regarding a facility that Lane County could ultimately be a part of, perhaps for a residential facility for women and children, single moms with children. We even have a location that I'm dreaming about. That's not something I'll discuss right now, but it's something that is on our radar screen, is that women with children and women who are being abused in domestic situations need sanctuary, and we don't have enough sanctuary for those women in this county right now. So thank you. Mr. Kerrigan, thank you for being here this morning. You know, back in the 1990s, 1998, 99, year 2000, I convened a committee, the Council Committee on Homelessness and Youth, which actually wrote the City of Eugene's camping ordinance. Now, that ordinance has been amended many times since then, and it's become a very complex ordinance that addresses camping both in parking lots for businesses and churches, etc., also in residences, driveways, and backyard camping. So it's a fairly extensive ordinance. It takes quite a bit of effort to maintain the rules that surround the ordinance, and the City of Eugene puts a lot of effort into making certain that the people who are camping in parking lots and in on residential properties are doing so in a safe, dignified, and sanitary fashion. As Commissioner Bozovich mentioned, it is something that we are looking at for the City of Eugene, for Lane County. In fact, currently we do allow camping on Lane County properties, mainly inside of the urban growth boundary at this point in time. Our winter response plan, for instance, allows for camping at the MLK Boulevard facility. We doubled the camping spaces this year. Something that I think I can speak for every member of this board up here while I'm sitting here, that we're all interested in making certain that people who are living in compromised conditions, whether it be substandard housing or no housing at all, we need to find places for them to be able to once again live in a dignified, safe, and sanitary fashion. We're working on it. And as Commissioner Bozovich also mentioned, that we have been talking with county staff as to what is it that we can do as a county that is going to work in a sustainable fashion in concert and coordination with the municipalities in Lane County. Something you and I have been working on for a lot of years. Ms. Grant, you and I have been working on since I first met you. And I think that we're making headway. The other situation that exists around housing, Commissioner Bozovich mentioned the auxiliary dwelling unit. There was both a House bill and a Senate bill this year that went a certain distance but got killed ultimately by our friends in Multnomah County. Were kind of the ones who didn't want it to go forward based upon input that they'd received from people who were concerned about misusing properties outside of urban growth boundaries. Thousand Friends of Oregon, their name came up as one of those petitioners or one of those complainers. So we're working on that. Auxiliary dwelling units, both inside urban growth boundaries and outside of urban growth boundaries, is something that we have to pay great attention to. It's probably not going to happen this legislative session. We'll keep talking about it. And Commissioner Janet Carlson, as the one who's kind of carrying the torch for Association of Oregon Counties up there, and she and I have been working closely on the Association of Oregon Counties Housing Subcommittee. It's actually a subcommittee of economic development. It really pertains more to human services issues, but it's human services and economic development are so closely tied that it's very difficult to wrest the two from one another. I will also mention that as we're talking about affordability of housing, anything that we do as far as codes, land use, making it more expensive to build houses inside or outside of the City of Eugene, makes it more difficult for people to get into housing. When we're building $400,000 and $500,000 or $200,000 homes, that certainly does address a certain part of the population. But you've heard of a trickle-down effect? When we're building upper-level homes, it's not a trickle-down effect, it's a fire hose effect. If we're not able to build houses in Lane County, everybody suffers. If we're not able to build houses inside of our urban growth boundaries, which is a preferred place to build housing, particularly dense housing, then everybody who wants to live in a home or everybody who wants to live in a less substandard housing situation, everybody suffers. So that's the issue that we're up against at this point in time. We always have to pay attention. When we're making it more expensive to build houses, we have to pay attention to the people who don't have any houses at all. Any further response or remonstrance? Then we'll move along to emergency business. We do have emergency business today, as Commissioner Bozovich mentioned. We have before us Order 17-05-17-05 in the matter of amending Order 17-04-0409, authorizing the sale of surplus county-owned real property identified, etc. And today we have Mr. Jim Cheney and Mr. Mokrahysky.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jeremy Shearer. I'm an engineering associate with the right-of-way section of Engineering and Construction Services. Mr. Chair, thank you for hearing this emergency agenda item. I'm coming before this body to propose an amendment to a previous order authorizing the sale of surplus county-owned property located on North Danabo. The proposed order would authorize the county to amend the previously accepted sales agreement and to execute a deed for the North Danabo property. Since that initial acceptance on February 24th, 2017, unforeseen conditions on the property were discovered that would substantially raise the development costs. The purchaser has proposed an amendment that would reduce the purchase price from $330,000 to $310,000. The proposed amendment is presented to the Board of Commissioners with a recommendation for acceptance. In addition to the reduction in the sales price, the purchaser is proposing that the closing will occur within 3 business days if accepted, and if not approved, that the earnest money would be returned. The reduced price and other conditions seem reasonable and still represent the highest offer. The timing is important since the offer expires on May 19th, 2017. I thank you for your consideration and the short notice on this matter, and I respectfully submit the order to you.
Thank you very much. Well done. I have a couple of questions before I ask the board if they have any comments on this. This property is off of Danabo and Roosevelt Boulevard.
Royal.
Danabo and Royal, excuse me. That's that strip of property north of the mobile home park that is
yes.
Behind my first home. What a coincidence. And that was originally intended to, when I was on the Eugene City Council, we got the state to approve the overpass over Royal Avenue, the Beltline overpass over Royal Avenue. Originally, it was going to be a diverted Royal Avenue as an overpass over Beltline Road at that point in time.
That's correct.
We don't need that for an overpass anymore. It's been sitting there kind of fallow for some time.
Yes.
Last year, or about a year ago, we looked at considering the easternmost portion of that strip of property for potentially for temporary emergency dwelling, and we, for whatever reasons, the city did not want to move forward with that. But this strip is up for sale, and he's asking for a $20,000 reduction in the price because of conditions that have arisen. Thank you very much. I'm looking at it on the map right now. Discussion to the issue, Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you. So I've looked over real fast in between this morning and now the memo and Scott Morris's analysis of the additional cost, and it's interesting to note that the engineer is estimating the added cost to be somewhere between $70,000 and $90,000 in additional costs, yet they're only asking for a $20,000 reduction in the purchase price. When you get down to, and they were talking about 30-inch storm drain, which is somewhere about $75 a linear foot, you're really only buying about 300 feet of pipe maybe with that, and they're actually talking about putting in several thousand across the property and up to Royal Avenue. So I don't think it's an unreasonable request in the reduction of the value, and understanding that we are coming up against a deadline with the property sale where they had a certain number of days to finish the transaction or they would lose their earnest money, and the fact that the next highest bid was significantly lower. And do you know that amount?
300,000.
So we're still dealing with a offer that's higher than the next bid. So I think it's inappropriate to amend this sales contract and go ahead and get it executed and get this property into the inventory producing housing that's much needed in this area. And also it will resolve an issue we had with illegal camping on that property also, if it's under development, and get permanent housing on there instead of temporary illegal camping on that property.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. Further discussion to the motion? As we have a motion, Commissioner Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no discussion. I'd just like to, if everybody's ready, I'd like to move approval of Order 17-05-17-05, the matter of amending Order 17-040409, authorizing the sale of surplus county-owned real properties identified as a portion of map and tax lot number 17042810-00400 map and tax lot number 17042812021000 2200 02300 and 02400.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Lycan, seconded by Commissioner Bozievich. Discussion to the motion. Commissioner Lycan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So considering who the purchaser is, I'm confident this is I think Commissioner Bozievich brought up some really good thoughts here on just the cost and the price, but considering who the purchaser is, I'm glad it's going in somebody's hands who has experience in doing this very thing. So I fully support this.
Further discussion? I'll just mention that I did live just adjacent to that property back in the late 1970s. We built a home there, and then I think ours was the last home built before the crash, the housing crash. And since then, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 homes have been built right along that same section. So great place for housing, close to Bethel schools, very close to Bethel schools, which we all have a high confidence in. So any further discussion to the motion? Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Ms. Cheney, thank you for bringing this forward. Now we have before us the consent calendar for Tuesday, May 16, 2017. All items listed here are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion of those items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately. Commissioner Sorensen.
I'd like to remove the item.
Item 5A2 has been removed for separate discussion. That is Order 1705-1701. Do I have a motion for the consent calendar minus that one item? Commissioner Bozievich.
So I'll move approval of the consent calendar for May 16, 2017, less item 5A2.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion to the motion. Seeing and hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Commissioner Sorensen. Is now the appropriate time to discuss the item that's been pulled?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention that I requested a separate vote on this. We don't need to have a separate discussion. We've already voted on something very similar.
Thank you. Commissioner Bozievich.
So I'd like to move approval of item 5A2, Order 1705-1701, in the matter of transferring $500 from general fund operation contingency to materials and services within general fund expenses to participate in the coalition challenging the National Flood Insurance Program's Oregon Biological Opinion.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bozievich, seconded by Commissioner Lycan. Discussion to the motion. Commissioner Lycan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have had a conversation with Mayor Lumberg, and I believe the city of Springfield is interested in looking at this and also joining the coalition. I don't believe they've made a decision or had a vote on it, but there's a strong interest, and that's obvious due to the fact that this would likely affect Glenwood in a negative way, in which they're hoping to pursue. So that's it.
Thank you. And Mr. Mokrahajski, I believe we've had quite a bit of discussion surrounding that, Mr. Dingell. At the board level, there's a great deal of information on file surrounding this, and this is just an additional $500 to continue the action we've already taken.
And actually, Chair Farr, the board, what happened in the original order included the $500. This is just an order transferring the money. This is not authorizing the $500. That was done in the original decision by the board to pursue this. This is literally an administrative matter of which fund it comes out of.
Thank you very much for that explanation. Anything else on this motion? And we have before us order number 1705-17-01. I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Dingell.
Oh, I voted no.
Oh, you did vote no. I did not hear that. Correction.
Silent vote no.
It passed. The motion passed 4-1 with Commissioner Sorensen voting opposed. Regavel. Okay, we'll move along now with Public Works. Item 6A, a discussion regarding Envision Eugene's schedule in response to parcel-specific inventory request. Mr. Mokrahayski, today we have Ms. Lydia McKinney. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. As Chair Farr notes, this morning we're here to discuss the schedule and to give you some information that you requested through the agenda team request process with regards to the Envision Eugene's proposal, the question of whether or not the buildable lands inventory is parcel specific. And if I may, I'll start with the second question first, because that is something that has had quite a bit of discussion. As I noted in the agenda cover memo, this is something that, I was actually still working for the City of Eugene at the time that the first buildable lands inventory was in process. That was the ECLA, I think it was the Eugene Comprehensive Lands Assessment. Subsequent to that kind of broad scale, non-policy level lands analysis, the City of Eugene did a second buildable lands inventory. And that buildable lands inventory was done with a finer grain of specificity than ECLA had been, and it put into consideration some of the policies that the City of Eugene had already been implementing. As you know, Envision Eugene is a big project and a long process, and there's a number of things that kind of make up the proposal that will be before you very soon. That proposal is a request for a redrawing of the UGB. And so this buildable lands inventory is a foundational part. It's a fundamental piece of that information. And I'll be talking with you more about this, and I'll talk about the schedule just in a few moments. But with regards to that question, your planning director, legal counsel, planning staff have all reviewed the proposal from the City of Eugene, and we concur with the City of Eugene that their buildable lands inventory is indeed and in fact more fine-grained than parcel specific. Eugene staff and Eugene legal counsel has appreciated working with us, right? Who wouldn't? And so through our review process, there are some things that we looked at and we said, hey, this really isn't very clear to us how you meet the state law. And so the good news is that the City of Eugene has been very responsive to those questions that have come in, to your planning commission is really the body that's making the recommendation to you. So before we come before you, again, that's going to be for our work session and first reading on June 13th, your packet will include maps that will demonstrate that they are, the buildable lands inventory was done at a parcel specific level. And so unless you want me to stop and you want to ask questions about that, I can move into the schedule piece of it, if that's okay with the board or it's your pleasure.
Thank you. Bear in mind that today's item is discussion only. We have no action before us at this point in time. Discussion to this portion of today's agenda item. Commissioner Bozievich.
Thank you. I just want to clarify part of your memo and also in meeting with the planning director from the city, they are adding parcel boundaries to the maps so that folks can identify parcels. So although it's not, quote, parcel specific inventory, the ability to look at the maps and figure out which parcel, tax map parcel had some buildable lands identified on it will be fairly simple for those that can go back and forth between tax maps and those maps, and then if they wanted to go back, say if it was a developer or an engineer, and look in their records to see if they ever tried to develop that particular parcel, and also it seems to me that the city has gone to that step that meets the concern, which is being able to look at specific parcels for past history, which was what the concern I think of the home builders was. So I appreciate the extra work the city's doing to add that information and address the home builders' concerns.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. Further discussion to this portion of the agenda item. Then a question that I'm always going to ask, Lydia, Ms. McKinney, as we move forward, and particularly surrounding land use, particularly land use inside of urban growth boundaries, which is absolutely essential to providing what I talked about earlier in the meeting. I think you had arrived, making certain that people who want a home in Eugene can get a home in Eugene. So I'm always going to be looking at how do we make it easier for people to get into housing. And the question that I will always ask is, does this make housing more or less expensive to develop in Eugene? And you can answer that if you want, or actually, that's a loaded question because pretty much any action that is taken makes housing more expensive in Eugene. But go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to answer the question per se, but I think, again, the discussion that Eugene staff and your county planning staff will be bringing forward to you, I think we will have some really robust discussions about just that. Affordable housing is something that everyone that I work with and know who is working in this field is very concerned about. And so that is something that is on the forefront, as it is, I know, on the commissioners' minds, also on staff from Eugene and Lane County's minds. So obviously what we're bringing before you is something that Eugene believes is actually going to make progress in terms of addressing affordable housing. And again, we'll be able to get into some detail about how we think that will be achieved when we start discussing the proposal in the land use process on June 13th.
Excellent. And I'm writing down that quote right now, making progress in addressing affordable housing. Okay, I love that, because that's what we need to do at all times and all policies and all activities. And, you know, Ms. McKinney, you worked with the City of Eugene for a long time, and we're lucky that you moved over here and you're working with us. So your depth of experience in these areas, I welcome and trust your input on that. So then let's move along with the balance of the item.
Thank you. So with regards to the schedule, it's been a multi-year process, and we're at the end game here in terms of one piece of that, and that's the UGB. So we have had a public hearing with our Planning Commission, and again, the Lane County Planning Commission is your advisory body. They had a joint work session with Eugene, and then we had separate deliberations with the Lane County Planning Commission and the Eugene Planning Commission. They unanimously recommended approval of the package. That's public record. And they also, like Eugene Planning Commission, they had some items that they wanted to bring to your attention specifically. So tonight, we have a Lane County Planning Commission meeting, and we will be finalizing the draft document that the Planning Commission wants staff to bring to you as part of the recommendation. So again, the dates of what happened in the past are all in your packet. I'm not going to restate those, but moving forward, so the Planning Commission took action 2 weeks ago, recommended approval unanimously. We'll finalize the memorandum. Then Eugene and Lane County staff will be before you on June 13th for your first reading, and we'll have a work session at that time. I expect that will be a robust discussion. There'll be a lot of materials for your review, and we'll make sure that you have access to any of us that you need to help answer any questions. Then we are scheduled for a joint public hearing, so you will meet with the City of Eugene Council on the 27th of June for a joint public hearing on the Envision Eugene co-adoption process. And then Eugene City Council will go and have their deliberations, and the board and your county planning staff will come here and we'll have your deliberations. So we'll deliberate on those things separately, but we'll have the public hearing together so everyone will be able to hear all of the comments that are being brought forth.
Excellent. And the Planning Commission met on this already, and it's in the public record. What can we find that in the public record?
Well, it's on our Planning Commission homepage. The minutes and the agenda item tonight, after they take their action, we'll also have, the motion is probably already online, right? It just takes a few days for staff to upload that stuff. So it is available on our Planning Commission page. The information, and then the draft memorandum that staff worked with the chair of the Planning Commission to put together, that's on the Planning Commission homepage. And again, we'll be finalizing that with your Planning Commission tonight.
So the Planning Commission discussion is itemized in the minutes on the homepage.
Absolutely.
Okay, and it will be for tonight's meeting also. And Commissioner Bozovich, I believe you're the council liaison to the Planning Commission, so you'll be there this evening. Excellent. Any questions? Commissioner Lycan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I believe next month will mark 10 years ago that the House passed House Bill 3337 by a 50-5 margin and the Senate 26-2. So why do you think the extraordinary swiftness that's occurred with the city of Eugene to finally get it here, why do you think that's occurred? It's been so quick, and because 10 years has been amazingly fast for Envision Eugene to finally get here. Why do you think that the extraordinary swiftness has occurred?
Well, again, I'm not going to answer that question directly.
I don't expect you to.
But I will say that I have been doing planning in Oregon for 21 years, and I've been doing long-range planning in Oregon for a portion of that time. Long-range planning takes time. It's not dissimilar to transportation planning in some ways. Actually, land use happens at a faster rate. So I've been involved in projects that the city of Eugene adopted prior to me leaving that, took years. So the swiftness, the pace is something I'm probably not going to comment on. But I will say it's not unusual for a city with a lot of community input like Eugene has to take a long time. Bend went through a very rapid process about 10 years ago, I believe, to add 6,000 acres to the UGB. How'd that work for them?
Well, it cost them a city manager, 2 city councilors, or 3 city councilors, and I'm not sure what else, but it cost them quite a bit.
And now they've just recently got their UGB approved after a couple of remands, and don't quote me on the details there.
No.
So there are different ways to go.
Oh, I prefer the Redmond method over the Bend method anyway, but that's
We'll look at that for next
a
time.
little bit.
Thank you, Commissioner Lycan. Further discussion? So it's not unusual for a city the size of Eugene with as much public input to take, and I'm paraphrasing the rest, to take a little longer than other cities might in moving forward with the long-range planning. Ms. McKinney, you've been planning for 21 years. 23 years ago, I became a city councilor in Eugene, and so I've been steeped in it. And the city council is historically, there's no question about it. You can look at the map. There's a division in the city council, always has been. I work with 3 different mayors, and quite often the city council is divided to the point where the mayor votes in an inordinate number of issues. The mayor only votes in the event of a 4-4 tie or a tie on the Eugene City Council. But you'll look over the last, since Ruth Bascom was no longer the mayor, there have been a lot of mayoral ties in the voting. That's just the way it is, and it moves slowly. You were working for the city of Eugene in 2010. And it's right around 2010 that we first sat in that big round circle over at St. Mary's, in the parish hall at St. Mary's, and there were, I think close to 100 people there. And we talked about how do we envision Eugene. Well, that's a new term, envision Eugene, we said at the time. That was 2010. So we're moving forward, and ultimately there'll be some buildings on this empty lot over here. We did fill the holes over where Woolworths used to be, and things do happen in Eugene. Sometimes not as quickly as some of us would like. So.
And if I could, I would note that Walnut Station is a project that was completed while I was still working at the city of Eugene. And being up in that area recently, it's bustling with construction activity. There is a lot of student housing being built. There's a lot of traffic improvements that have been made. And so again, with some good foresight and good planning, hopefully some of those visions really do come to fruition.
And I think we're probably at the tail end of the Whitaker refinement plan when you came on board at the city of Eugene. And what happened then, it was pretty controversial. People were saying, well, why would we want to do that in the Whitaker? Well, you go down in the Whitaker area right now, and it really is a vibrant part of Eugene. Sometimes it's even hard to drive down there. It's so vibrant. So things do move, and we're confident that things move in the right direction. And the bottom line is that people who want to have a home in Eugene are going to have a home in Eugene. Because I've got the quote right here. Eugene is making progress in addressing the needs for affordable housing. End quote. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else on this item? Commissioner Lycan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, of course, I did ask you a facetious question, and that's fine. But it's no different than the Gateway area. The vision began when John Lively was mayor, and the planning actually then concluded when Bill Morissette was mayor. And the $1 billion that was invested and the 20,000 jobs created happened when I was mayor. So, but that was from 85 to, that was 20 years. And, but that was 20 years to the vision to the investment and all that occurred. So it does take time. And I will tell you, family has developed in other states, and it's actually quicker to do a development in California than it is here. It's pretty amazing. I think we're feeling the effects of SB 100, and I don't feel it's going to get any better. And I think that's why more folks are investing in Washington, Idaho. Even people say they're moving out of California, they're investing in California as well, and as well as Nevada. And unfortunately, we're getting bypassed some, and which is unfortunate. It's the law. We have to deal with it. But I just want to say, Lydia, thank you for your great work on this. I'm very appreciative.
And I echo that. And thank goodness you don't live in Tillamook County, where absentee owners are the rule of the day, where people who live and work there cannot buy a home because they're all there for 2 weeks vacation when I get to come here from wherever I happen to live. That's a difficult situation. We have some of it occurring in Florence, but Florence has not, unlike Tillamook County, has not been discovered yet to the world. So we're moving forward. And you know, during my years with Eugene, I worked with 7 different city managers, starting with Mike Gleason, but also including Jim Carlson, who was just acting city manager, Angel Jones, who I only worked with for a few weeks before I was elected to the legislature, and also, let's see, well, the list goes on. Some very effective city managers, and John Rees is our current city manager, and we all have a great deal of respect and confidence in Mr. Rees. Thank you very much, Lydia. So we'll see more on this on June 14th. Is that right, Commissioner Bozievich? Is that the day you said earlier?
June 13th.
June 13th.
I think
Excellent.
that's what, yeah.
Very good. Then we'll move along with county administration. Mr. Mokrahajski, announcements.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick items. I wanted to update the board on voter turnout. As of close of business yesterday, May 15th, voter turnout is 20.4%. 50,265 ballots were received through business yesterday. This is a lower return when we compare to the same type of election during similar years. In 2013, we received 60,899 ballots, and in 2015, we received 57,020 ballots through Monday return. So 7 to 10,000 less this election cycle compared to 2013 and 2015 for the same times. Ballots must be deposited at one of our 20 official Dropbox locations in Lane County or any Oregon official Dropbox no later than 8 p.m. today. Postmarks do not count. Has to be in by 8. And then our staff will pick it up and get it counted. Results will be posted at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., and then before staff leaves for the night, probably sometime around midnight. You can go to lanecounty.org/elections for all election returns. And then just a quick note on post-election work that will continue after Election Day will include write-in ballot processing for the 16 no candidate filed positions, voters resolving unsigned ballot envelopes or signatures that did not match and preparing the election abstracts. And then we take the 20 days between the election and June 5th to certify the election. June 5th is the deadline for certification of the election. I think we covered the public comment this morning from Mr. Kerrigan. The commissioners all responded, and those were, I just wanted to sort of summarize that again, that as Commissioner Bozievich said, Mr. Dingell is preparing a letter based on our staff's response on what it would be involved in adopting a an ordinance to incorporate the car camping and rest stop provisions into the county code. It is more involved than just a simple adoption, so there is some work that's involved in that. So you'll receive a letter from Mr. Dingle soon. Mr. Kerrigan mentioned the county's participation in the rest stop program and the car camp, and I just wanted to again say, you know, we had the better part of a year, a little over a year, that we had a rest stop, the Nightingale rest stop at Lane County Behavioral Health. That has since moved to the Mission location. I think is in the process of moving from that location. Lane County has also increased car camping. We went from five car camping spots 2 winters ago to 10 car camping spots at Behavioral Health this last winter. So we participated and continue to do that on the car camping front. One of the reasons that we have not moved the rest stop back to the behavioral health site, as the board knows, is that we are in the planning phases and the planning and design phases for a supportive housing project at that location. So the board has firmly committed, and as part of your strategic plan has identified a goal to pursue supportive housing. So you recognize the benefit and the value of temporary and emergency shelter needs in the community, but also want to have a real commitment to permanent supportive housing. And so that is an ongoing investment and work that we're doing. And then finally, we talked about it in the budget kickoff, and I just want to make another note, the county's commitment and this board's commitment to the Human Services Commission, that at a time that we've seen stable funding from the city of Springfield. Springfield contributes about $125,000 a year to the Human Service Commission. This is a collaborative between the 3 jurisdictions to pool resources that then get reinvested via the Human Services Commission that Commissioner Farr serves on, as well as representatives from Eugene and Springfield and local residents. Gets redistributed to nonprofit organizations in the community that provide housing and services to individuals in poverty in our community. Eugene has decreased its funding from somewhere in the range of $1.2 million down to around $800,000 over the last several years. Lane County has actually increased its funding during that same period of time, at a time in which we've seen a 90% decline in federal timber funds. So I say that again just as to reinforce the point that while we've had significantly reduced funding, this board each year has increased and now stabilized the funding towards the Human Service Commission. And we've done some research and analysis of where the money comes from and where it's going. Lane County contributes over 50% of the funding to the Human Service Commission between the 3 entities, Eugene, Springfield, Lane County. We contribute over 50%, but around less than 20% of those resources go to services for residents within the unincorporated areas. The vast majority of that funding, over 50% of the resources, go towards services for residents in Eugene. And I think it's something in the range of 25 to 30% goes to services in Springfield. So there is, if you just look at it from the standpoint of who's contributing and where those resources benefiting, most of the money is going towards services in the metro area, even though a good chunk of that money is generated by taxpayers throughout the county. In addition to that, I'm sorry to be, but this is an important point, I think. In addition to the Human Service Commission piece, Lane County contributes another $12 million in other funding to support individuals in various ways, through mental health services, through substance abuse services, through our youth services program, and other services that we provide directly or we contribute to others there. So there's the nearly $1 million a year we contribute to the Human Service Commission, and then you can add another $12 million in other supportive services that we provide. And of course, all of this leverages additional state and federal funding. So I just want to make that kind of broader point that there's a lot of, obviously we talk about rest stops and car camping and the need for emergency shelter. The board is committed and supported supportive housing initiatives, but we do a lot supporting the Egan Warming Centers and St. Vincent de Paul and Shelter Care and other organizations. The last point, unless there are questions on that I wanted to make, is I got a flyer in the mail the other day and I was looking through it and it said It says, the last great place to grow a business. And I started flipping through, and it said, imagine the perfect place. Imagine a place, waking up in a place you love, a place where the water tastes great, a place where your morning commute takes 10 minutes, coffee stop included, a place where you're able to invest your capital to grow your company, not to pay rent or to pay for bandwidth, a place surrounded by quality employees eager to make a difference. This is not a fantasy. It's the last great place on the West Coast to start your business. And I'm looking at pictures of people fly fishing and beautiful waterfalls and the coast and museums, and there's all this data around cost of living and mountain biking. I thought, boy, there's another place just like Lane County. And it turns out this is Lane County. And I'm going to hand this out and pass it out to the commissioners so you can take a look. But Commissioner Lyken and I serve on the Greater Eugene Inc. board. This is the former Lane Metro Partnership, which was then temporarily the South Willamette Economic Development Corporation. Now it's the Greater Eugene Inc. And it really has been reinvigorated. The board, I think, did a fantastic job. In Lane County, another example of where Lane County contributes 50% of the funding, we spend $100,000 per year in video lottery funds. Of a $200,000 budget to operate this organization, Lane County contributes half of that. Eugene contributes $50,000, Springfield contributes $50,000. So it's all public sector funded. The board includes the mayors of Eugene and Springfield, Commissioner Lyken, a handful of other public officials, and then private businesses. But we hired a new executive director, Ward Wimbish. He's really done a nice job coming in and building a foundation for this organization, and it's a really nice flyer. They went with the Technology Association of Oregon to San Jose, to Silicon Valley in the Bay Area to pitch Lane County as a destination to grow your business. And I just thought this was a really nice flyer, and wanted you to know about some of the work that's happening to market our incredible region for business development. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Morkowski. And thank you, Commissioner Lyken, for your work on Greater Eugene Inc. That's an amazing stride you're making there. Any response to Mr. Morkowski, or we'll move along to the next item on our agenda, which is, Commissioner Sorensen, please.
Thank you very much. I had not seen this brochure that Greater Eugene Inc. put out, but boy, it's a great reminder. I noticed also the Eugene Chamber of Commerce magazine that I read each month. It also really emphasizes the benefits of starting business in Eugene or fostering a business. And you know, these photographs just really remind you of why it's such a positive place. And I know a lot of our discussion on the board deals with the social problems that are here, and there are many. They need to be solved. But you know, for a lot of us, it's a pretty nice place to live. And if we have the fortune in life to be able to pick where we want to live, you know, this is a great place to be, and this brochure is a great reminder of just how much opportunity there is for people, and how many businesses are started here because it is a great place to live.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorensen. We'll move along then to county council business, and I see no council present for announcements. So we'll move along to commissioners' business. Commissioners' announcements. Commissioner Bozievich.
So I'll just remind everybody that the Rhododendron Festival is coming up in Florence this weekend. It's a great family festival, great time down there. Rhododendrons are in bloom and beautiful and all that, and the parade's on Sunday, so go on down and have a great time in Florence. The weather's going to be great.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozievich. Commissioner Lyken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So last night, myself and Sarah Means attended an event in Portland called the Celebrate Trade Gala, and I wish I had written down how many ambassadors were there representing. I believe they were representing Malaysia, representing. You know what? Hopefully I'll get that for you. But I believe there were 4 ambassadors that were at the event last night, let alone the amount of consulate generals that were there, representing Germany, Luxembourg, I think Malaysia, as I mentioned. We were invited by the honorary consul. There's 2 honorary consuls in Oregon, one in Portland, one in Eugene. And we were invited by the honorary consul in Portland to attend. And it was fantastic. The keynote speaker was Sean O'Halloran, who serves on the Oregon Transportation Commission, but his full-time, his real job, if you will, he's the Vice President of Government Affairs for Nike, and talking about the impacts of trade in Oregon, what that means to our economy, and it was also a send-off to Bill Wyatt, who's retiring as the director of the Port of Portland. He'll be retiring next month, and Bill is someone I've known for a long time, and now that Terminal 6 seems to be back, that now has deals being renegotiated and now moving in a positive light. He's going to be leaving the port in a real positive manner compared where the port was when he was first named the director, in particular the Portland Airport, which is regarded as one of the top 5 most efficient airports in the country. I know it was rated number 1, I believe, a year ago or 2 years ago, but it's still top 5. And but it was really great. We were able to talk to several folks in Business Oregon, talking about the things that we're doing here. And I got to tell you, we were sitting with some folks associated with the U of O, including a couple of the students who were honored last night and received scholarships from the World Consulate Scholarship. They give scholarships to students, and 2 students from the University of Oregon. We were sitting with them last night. Very sharp, two young ladies. I was really impressed. But it just shows how important trade is and what that means. And Sarah, of course, has statistics off the top of her head. And people are asking, well, how many companies are homegrown and how many companies do you recruit? And it's nearly 80% are homegrown. That's where the jobs actually come from. So the recruitment of outside companies, while that still should be part of our strategy and should continue to be that way, the reality is it's growing our own is what's going to continue to be the catalyst for economic growth. I think it's more than that. And then 78%, no, it's the 78% number. 70%, think about this for a second, 78% of all businesses in Oregon have 50 employees or less. Now that's pretty stunning, isn't it? We're basically a community-based business state. And so growing our own is going to be something that's going to be key moving forward. And but it was well worth it attending, and considering the work that I've been working with Susan Cox, who's our honorary consul here in Eugene of South Korea, and the conversations we're having. I mean, the things we're learning about Korea. And in fact, I had coffee with a friend of mine, Damon Sly, this last week, who's in the computer gaming industry, and he told me, and it was reiterated last night, South Korea has the fastest internet Wi-Fi out of any country in the world. So if there's ever a place to trade and really increase our opportunities, that's the country. And they're our friend and ally, which is even more important, I think, because and what we have to offer, especially our ag products, the high-tech industry that we see here blossoming. I think there's going to be some really incredible opportunities for Lane County to really continue to work with Korea, and as well as Japan. I mean, we've had a long-standing relationship with Japan, Oregon has, but Korea, I think, is the next big spot that we need to continue to work and engage with. And so it was very exciting, and glad to be there, and glad that while 2 of us were from Lane County, was dominated by Portland. It was nice that Lane County had someone there last night, and just to meet and discuss with different folks. And so I got to run into old friend Phil Kiesling. He was there last night as well. I've known Phil for forever, and had a great conversation with him. He's with Portland State and has been for a number of years. But it was an exciting evening, and glad that Lane County had a small little tiny voice, but anytime you sit at the U of O table, you can have a little bit larger than a tiny voice, so that's always a good thing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Lycan, for your history of providing more than a small voice for Lane County. That's not the first event you've gone to and represented Lane County well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further commissioner business announcements. Then just a couple from me. I'll mention we were talking earlier about housing, and on Thursday, May 18th, that's this week, on May 22nd, the Poverty and Homelessness Board Shelter and Supportive Housing Development Committee will be meeting. Now, the Poverty and Homelessness Board is the committee that reports directly to the Human Services Commission. It's also the Continuum of Care Grant Authorizing Committee. It replaced a couple of committees from the federal requirements. And the agenda for the upcoming meeting goes along well with what Mr. Kerrigan was talking about this morning. We'll have updates on supportive housing projects, current projects in progress, and projects, sample projects in Bellingham and Boulder that have moved forward using multiple sources of funding. We'll also have a housing finance analysis for historical and current housing affordable housing financing, and we'll also have a work session on the City of Eugene's work session on public shelter that they held last week. So this committee, which is made up of members from the City of Springfield, City of Eugene, Lane County, and care providers throughout the county, will be meeting specifically on housing next Thursday. Any other announcements? Ms. Mokrajewski, just a tiny little correction. Earlier you mentioned that I am, not a correction, just an addition. You mentioned that I represent the county on the Human Services Commission. Commissioner Bozovich is also on the Human Services Commission. We both, historically it's only been one commissioner and one member of the Budget Committee, but the makeup calls for two Lane County representatives, and at the current time we're lucky to have two commissioners on that commission. Any further business then? Then we'll move along to assignments or agenda team requests. I see none. Then I've buried my my language. Excuse me a second. We do have need for a executive session today. And if you'll bear with me a second, Mr. Mokrajewski, I've lost my language, but I'll find it very quickly here. The Board of County Commissioners will meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. This executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602E, which allows the Board of Commissioners to meet in executive session for the purposes listed above. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. We reserve the right to come back out into public session should the need arise. At my gavel, we will be recessing the Board of County Commissioners and reconvening as the executive committee, in executive session, excuse me.